Even if they don't plan to sell it someday, if that's not a goal of theirs, that's fine, but you still want to create the business as if you're going to sell it someday. I hated showing up there and being in the same industry as people who were sharing screenshots of their Stripe account and bragging about how big their business was, and I bought this car and I went on this trip and blah blah blah. If you are losing clients just as fast as you're gaining them, you are never going to scale. Scalability comes.
Okay, we are live with Kim Breiland of Kim Breiland Coaching. And I'm really excited for this conversation because I've had the pleasure of meeting with so many cool business owners over the past couple of months, e-commerce and coaches and small local businesses and things of that nature. But it's not every day that I have the ability to chat one-on-one with somebody who's in a similar industry as us, right? Business scalability, marketing, getting your brand out there, and be able to jam with somebody who's also doing it and finding out what's working right now in the industry. What are you seeing changing? What are the things that you've stopped doing and things of that nature. And I'm really excited to have you on, Kim. Kim is a business growth coach and strategist, and she helps owners create a scalable and self-led company. But that's very high level. Kim's going to go into a lot more details of what that actually means. And, one of the sayings that she uses that I actually noted down in my notes to talk about is calm the chaos. And I love that because it takes the formality of business and all of the things that can be happening, and it encompasses into one of the main things that she does is just take things that can feel very chaotic day to day and calm them down, which can lead to more profit. So Kim, I'm so excited to have you on, and I would love if there's anything that you want to add to that intro of you, like some of the clients that you help and things like that. I'd love to hear that.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much, David, not just for that wonderful intro, but also for having me. I love having conversations like this. It's like a highlight of my day. So thank you so very much. You got it right. I like to calm the chaos. Simplicity scales. That's what I tell everybody. So oftentimes as business owners, as visionary CEOs, we have so much on our plates. We have so much to think about. And oftentimes we can get really in the weeds with it. So it's very important to learn how to step back, how to understand the moving parts, understand your zone of genius, where you need to delegate or dismiss so that you can calm the chaos and literally step into your visionary CEO role and create a scalable self-led business. Now, all of that is, just fancy talk for creating systems that allow you to maintain control and to know what you're operating off of as you look at your business, and to really understand your numbers and the things that drive profits to your business. Because at the end of the day, if you're not always keeping that front and center for either yourself or your team, you're not going to hit your goals, and you're going to have a very expensive hobby. So I like to have, I like to work with business owners. I actually work in business owners in all different industries. I like to call myself a strategist simply because I do prefer to work with small business owners. I'm not really one of those coach for coaches who coaches kind of a person. I like to work with small business owners who truly have a goal in mind. They have either a service or maybe like a hybrid business. I have worked with like commercial roofers. I've worked with solar. I've worked with pest control. I mean, like anything, think small business, where they're doing great work for people and they just need more people to know of them. And then also how to sort of stop working in that operator role and really step into that visionary CEO role. And that takes time, and that takes understanding many different aspects of business. And that's what I love to do. So my background is I used to run events for 20,000 people. I've worked at a SaaS startup, and I've worked my way up through that company. And so I've really learned over the years that my zone of genius and what I love to do is to sort of come in, take a look at the big picture and help people optimize it, like really help them understand the processes, the foundation, the different repeatable systems that they either have to do themselves or they have to delegate, so that they really understand how their business works and what they need to focus on so they can truly not only serve, but also ensure that they're keeping a healthy net profit margin. So yeah, I love what I do.
I love that. And I love that. And one thing that I find to be valuable about this kind of expertise is you're bringing a lot of different business acumen to the table where,
Mm-hmm.
when you bring on somebody who only does one specific subset of the business, right? Whether it's just social media or just this or just that,
Mm-hmm.
they're only seeing that picture, whereas you're almost coming in at a 30,000-foot view and looking
Mm-hmm.
down on a business. But because you're out of it, right, you're not in the day-to-day weeds, you
Mm-hmm.
can notice things that owners don't get the ability to normally see. Is that a big part
Mm-hmm.
of how it plays into? And then
Mm-hmm.
you might see a
Yep.
bottleneck. It's like, oh my God, it's like literally right there in front of you. You just have to
Yep.
tweak that. And they're
Yep.
they're so in it that they're just so used to maybe that pain point or that problem,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
the I've tried that before syndrome that we've seen. So I'm
Yep.
sure that plays a big part in what you do as well.
Oh, you said it perfectly. I mean, I literally I spend the first, couple sessions just trying to help them unlearn what they've been doing. We have habits that get us to a certain point, but then often we outgrow them and we need to learn a new way. And you don't know what you don't know. And
Mm,
so yes, exactly. And it's so funny you said what you said about the 30,000. That's a great analogy, the 30,000 up view, because I do believe that there are specialties or niches that are needed, and they serve an unbelievably important purpose. But at the end of the day, you sometimes need somebody to come in and give you a 360-degree view,
yeah,
and really somebody that understands all the moving parts and how they need to
right,
work together to
right,
calm the chaos. And to
right,
your point, I find a lot of business owners come to me and they're in it, and the pain point, they have these pain points, but they're afraid to change, they're afraid to move on. And it's because that's just the way our brains are wired. We are, even if chaos is our comfort zone, we want to stay in it because it's what we know.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so, I'm a big like neuroscience nerd, and I love to help my clients understand why they're doing the things they're doing, why it's changing, and why change is a good thing, and how it will actually help them, even though it might be uncomfortable in the beginning. It's going to get
yeah,
them ultimately where they're actually really run, where they really desire, which is to be that leader of their company, that's self-led. Even if they don't plan to sell it someday, if that's not a goal of theirs, that's fine. But you still want to create the business as if you're going to sell it someday, as if it's already a well-oiled operation that can
right,
just be handed over to somebody, because that's actually what gives you greater net profit margin. It's what gives you greater autonomy, time freedom, all these things that most of us start our businesses because we desire. So
yeah.
it's really it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I promised you in the beginning that one of the things that I like to do is ask questions that are outside of the normal box. And you had made a post recently that stuck out to me that I'm just like, yes, everything about this I just love so much. But it's a
Thanks.
little bit out of the box and something that not a lot of people, especially in our space, isn't comfortable talking about it. And
Yeah.
it's the idea of revenue marketers. And
Mm-hmm.
you probably weren't even thinking that I was going to ask about this, but it's something that I
Yeah.
actually feel similarly passionate about. And I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
go a little bit deeper with you on that topic, just
Yeah.
because in a lot of spaces, it's who do you trust? Who do you go to? And one of the things
Mm-hmm.
that you talk about is putting the customer at the center of your business, which I want to talk more
Mm-hmm.
about too, right? And
Mm-hmm.
making
Yeah.
them the center point of everything that you do. And
Mm-hmm.
in your post, I think you posted it back in maybe it was back in March or so. You talked about how when you are a revenue marketer, it essentially means that you're taking your leads, your revenue, your profit, but it's also deeper than that, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
taking your car, your watch, your house, your whatever,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and using that to market your business, and you're selling
Mm-hmm.
that lifestyle. And
Mm-hmm.
it was how you had said something around like, if you're not marketing your business through your customers' results, you're doing it all wrong. And I would love for you to
Mm-hmm.
just go a little bit deeper on that, because I thought that was so powerful and something
Yeah.
that needs to be said in today's social media world.
Yeah, I think I know what post you're talking about. I said the only revenue numbers a business owner should be talking about is that of their clients. And
Yes,
so
that was the
I'm a
one.
big believer. Yeah. So I'm a
Yeah.
big believer that it doesn't matter what my revenue numbers are. It matters what my clients' revenue numbers are. It
Mm-hmm.
matters that my
Yeah.
clients are getting wins. But it's a catch 22 in the work that I do. And people like me. people want to know that you're getting good revenue wins because it means you're successful. And I've really invited people to take a different spin on that, because it really doesn't matter. I could have one client the whole year and not be a 7-figure business owner, but that doesn't matter, because it's what I help my clients do and the results they get. And that's why you're hiring me. And I think that, unfortunately, more specifically on certain, I don't like to name anything specifically or call anything out, but there are certainly some platforms where for a long time, I hated showing up there and being in the same industry as people who were sharing screenshots of their Stripe account and bragging about how big their business was. And I bought this car and I went on this trip and blah, blah, blah. Because behind the scenes, I was in mastermind groups with people that were doing this kind of stuff. And guess what? Their net profit margin was zero. They weren't really. They were leasing the car for the weekend. They were putting out this idea that they had this grand lifestyle just so people would hire them. And I just thought it was so unethical. It sat so poorly with me that, yes, I'll occasionally write a post where I used to have 100K, my goal used to be 100K year, and now my goal is 100K month. I'll occasionally say that now, just because I know that sometimes I have to show that I am growing as a business myself. But overall, it's not about me. It's about the people I serve, and are those people getting wins. And so I try as often as possible to share, with some of my clients. I'll be honest, they're not comfortable with me putting them out there. And they're getting the wins, but they just don't feel comfortable, and I have to respect their boundaries and their privacy concerns. And I work with a lot of small business owners that aren't really as maybe marketing savvy or social media savvy as you and I are. So that whole social media world is very much new to them. They've been growing predominantly through in-person networking and referrals and things like that. So this whole show up online, this whole brag about myself online is very new for them. It's very uncomfortable for them. So I try to, really protect my clients as often as possible. But to your point, I think just last week or 2 weeks ago, I had a piece that went out where I showcased one of my founders in one of my group programs. And she had shared with the group that she had 100% of her revenue goal for the year booked, and it was only May. And I said, Kelly, would you be okay with me sharing this? I cleared it with her. I told her exactly what I was going to post and how I was going to post it and when and where and all those things, because social proof is really important. No matter what business you're in, that social proof is, it's not only big for trust building, it's important for the economy that we're in. And what we've seen over the last couple of years, it's a way for people to really, to condense that sales cycle and build that know, like, trust faster. And so there's different nuances to it, and you have to kind of obviously go with what your gut is telling you. But I just constantly say to my clients, my revenue, yes, it's important, but at the end of the day, it's my client wins that mean more to me than wins that I brag about on social media or on my website. So
I agree with that so much. And one example that I like to sometimes think about is if let's say I was going to hire a personal trainer to help me get into better shape. It's a weird thing where, of course, you just expect your personal trainer to be in shape. He's going to have the bicep, he's going to have the abs, whatever, right? Of course. But when he posts a story that says something like, I took this busy entrepreneur from X pounds overweight to this, oh my God, you took somebody in my working situation and created a transformation. Or, hey, I helped this busy mom of 3 learn how that she can fit 10-minute workouts into her busy schedule, right? Okay, now that resonates with me way more so than the personal trainer having biceps, because he's a personal trainer. That's what he does. You know what I mean? And you assume it. But it's the same thing for business, where it's stories of other people that you've helped will sell more than you talking about yourself. And I just think that's so important. And it's for any business, right? It's not just business coaching and things like that, but you see things like this come up all the time, and it matters so much. And that leads to a good segue into one of the things that you talk a lot about is putting the customer at the center of the business.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you could elaborate more on like, what does that look like tangibly, right? If you're going into a business that you're going to be consulting or strategizing on,
Yeah.
and you want to talk to them about becoming more customer centric, which sounds obvious, but it's not always that way.
Yeah.
What does that look like in terms of having the customer at the center?
Yeah. So thank you so much for asking that, because it's my love language, that customer centricity. That is something that I have had to play around with in my marketing lately, because business owners don't understand the value of it. Is my firm belief that it's not enough to do all the things anymore and to have this great offer. If you don't have an equally great customer experience, you will not increase your retention numbers, your cross sells, your upsells, and your referrals, all those things that go into creating a truly scalable business. Everybody thinks it's like just getting more of the same, more clients, more clients, more clients. But I use with my clients an analogy, the leaky bucket analogy, where if you are losing clients just as fast as you're gaining them, you are never going to scale. Scalability comes from retention numbers, from cross sells, upsells, re-engagements, things like that. So it's really optimizing both your acquisition and your retention efforts. But going back to the customer centricity part, it is literally keeping your ideal clients their what I call operating reality. So what you gave a great example is the personal trainer. Okay. He could share, or she can share till they're blue in the face, their results, what they do, what they can help you achieve. But what you described is using a customer testimonial who's somebody more like you and showing the results. That trainer is meeting you in your operating reality and showing, hey, I've helped somebody just like you do what you want to do. So that's keeping the customer front and center. And the meeting them in their operating reality actually allows you to basically, what I call, pre-sell them before they ever even come to a consult. You're showing them that they can trust you. And the fears, the objections that people usually come to a consult with are fear of the unknown, pricing, like, the cost factor, or timing. Like, they are not sure if they trust themselves enough to give it the time and attention it needs to get the result they desire. So when you can meet your client in their operating reality, when you can be like, look, I know what you battle with, or I know what you desire, or I know what you want, and here's how it's going to go down. You're building up that trust. You're building up the kind of, like I said, you're pre-selling them before they even come to the consult. And so, but another way to do that is to always be asking for feedback. So, businesses that do not innovate stagnate. And so by having a repeatable system for constantly doing market research with people that aren't your clients, for doing satisfaction surveys with people that are your clients, so you're getting feedback, ongoing feedback, people tend to be afraid of this. And they don't do it because they fear what people are going to say. But you actually do so much better the more you embrace that constructive criticism or that positive feedback, because it makes you be able to innovate even better. And then the last point that I usually make with people is in terms of like the customer centricity and the operating, reality of their client, is that we've seen over the last 3 years, the buying cycle get longer and longer. Consumer trust is at an all-time low. And simply to combat that, you have to show that you truly care, that it's not just transactional, that you deeply understand them, that you are here to serve them, not just over the transaction period, but over their lifetime, that you can continue to innovate on your services or your products to be able to be there for them every step of their way. And it's not like squeezing the money out of them. It's like being there for them and truly serving them. So that's customer centricity. And I will say, I don't think businesses are fully leveraging the power of customer centricity. And that is one thing that you will see me coming out a lot more as the year goes on with my content and my blog and my social media, my podcast interviews, is that I want to help people understand the power that can be found in really leveraging, I call it my customer operating system, my customer experience operating system, but ultimately the value I give out to people is just explaining to them what that looks like in their business. And 9 times out of 10, business owners say to me, oh, my customer experience is great. I have no problem with that. And I could go into that business and tell you, you've got holes, you've got leaky bucket, you've got things that need to be shored up. You know, and that's not an attack in any way. It's helping them do the things like think about the Ritz-Carlton, right? Everybody holds the Ritz-Carlton to such a high standard. Why? Because they deliver exceptional service. They have that Credo card, and everybody that works for the Ritz-Carlton, you know what you're getting. There's a reason why they charge luxury prices, because you get a luxury experience. I'm not saying that every business has to be a luxury business. I'm just saying every business has the opportunity to give people an incredible experience. And those are the people that when you do that, the loyalty goes through the roof. They're clients for life. They're going to be the best, cheapest marketing you'll ever have, because they're going to refer you to everybody they know. And so I really do think the rest of 2024 coming into 2025, I think business owners have to take a really hard look, not just at their service or product and not just at their delivery, but also what is their overall customer experience from the first touch point straight through to sale and beyond. And I think the business owners that are to take this seriously, they're going to be the ones that have no problem navigating the tough economic times that we are in right now and the longer sales cycle that we're seeing.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And one thing that you mentioned earlier on was about how you recommend surveying your customers, which I thought was really interesting, because that's something like I would like to think of quick wins in this show of like, what are some things, like if you're listening, just go and do this like today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like right after this. Is there any, number one is it's a hard mindset shift to survey customers, especially after they leave, because
Absolutely.
it's a punch to the ego. And for
100%.
all of us, right? Nobody is immune to that. But getting some of that feedback can be some of the most valuable data that you can ever get, in my opinion.
Yep.
But let's say somebody's listening to this, they're like, okay, I've never surveyed my customers ever. You finally motivated me to do so. Yeah. I want to send, even start by just sending a Google form out with some questions of asking people, like, are there any good questions that you like to ask that you find get the realest and rawest response from people?
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give this is going to be so simple to apply. And if they do it and they really get, like you said, put the ego aside and make it about them, the client, and not protecting the ego, they will get so much valuable feedback. And I'll tell you why. So it's a two part answer to your question. Number one, people's attention spans are wicked short, to use a phrase from my husband's Boston area. So wicked short attention spans. And we want to make it as easy as possible for people to give us really, really insightful, valuable feedback. So I'm going to say, stick to 3 questions. Number one, how satisfied are you with fill in the blank business name? So whatever the name of the business is, how satisfied are you with blank? Number 2, how likely would you be to refer or recommend fill in the blank? Name your business. This is where your business name goes in. Number 3, this could be, so the first 2 are a multiple choice, 1 through 5. It's an easy way to link it to an Excel sheet so you can get real-time data and get a customer satisfaction score that you can, depending upon how many people you're polling, but surveying. And then number 3, you're going to ask an open-ended question, but you're going to try. You don't want to be leading. You don't want to lead them in the direction of anything. So, is something simple like, based on your experience with name the company, fill in the blank. What would you like us to know so that we can improve yours and other people, other clients' experiences, or something, general, like leave it open-ended. Let people be able to explain as much or as little as they desire. Now, here's why that's key. The actual words they use in question number 3, that will fuel your marketing for a quarter. They're going to tell you exactly what they're thinking. They're going to give you their operating reality. They're going to, as long as it's not a question that leads them, that's too biased leaning, like
Mm.
in one way or
What do you
another.
love
Like,
about your experience with, or
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Or what didn't you like? Anything that like is too leading, it's like that's going to skew the results a little bit. So you want to try to really create an open ended. Those are the three questions I'd recommend. Google Forms makes it really easy. I'm sure Microsoft Teams does the same thing where you can just plug it right into an Excel sheet. So these are the metrics we're tracking. These are the things we're doing all the
Right.
time. I know some of my clients, they've sent this out and immediately after the service was over to ask for this feedback. And as a way to increase the number of responses, they've told them that they'll give them a Starbucks gift card or an Amazon gift card for completing this brief survey. Or they'll complete the survey. And for anybody who completes the survey, the positive surveys that they receive, they'll reach back out to the client and say, if they'll share their Google My Business link. If you leave a Google review, 5-star review with this comment, and you just post it in there for them, we will, be happy to give you an Amazon gift card or a Starbucks
Mm.
gift card. And this has
Yeah.
so much, people love stuff like that. Like it takes 2 seconds
Yeah.
to click a link, copy and paste, and boom,
Yeah.
you've got social proof right there. So, and it
Yeah.
also helps your SEO. So little things like this, little tweaks that I will be honest, business owners know they should do, but they don't know how to build it in, or they don't know who to delegate or how to automate. So that they don't have so much on their time and shoulders. But if somebody were to take what I just said right now and do it right away, they would have quick wins because they would be able to really get into the heads of their ideal clients.
Yeah.
So I really do think collecting this information, it's like one of the most important things we can do to improve our positioning and to ensure that we're really giving all, like, anybody that's a prospect in our ecosystem, we're giving them a reason to know, like, and trust us.
Yeah.
So did that
Yeah.
fully answer the question?
It did. It did. It was so
Okay.
good. And I think there's two sides, right? We talk about how protecting the ego, and it's
Yeah.
knowing that, hey, some of the negative feedback that you're going to get, you can improve your product, which you improve your
Mm-hmm.
product. Like you almost have to like turn it around from not a negative thing to a positive thing. But also
Yeah.
when you get that 5-star or rating number 5 with
Yeah.
positive feedback, that
Mm-hmm.
might give you copy that you can make sure that you put prominently on your landing page, or you can do an
Exactly.
ad about it, right? It
Yeah.
gives you data. So it's negative feedback for product improvement, or expectation improvement too, of maybe like
Mm-hmm.
what they came in for wasn't actually what they got, and there was maybe a
Mm-hmm.
mix there. But then also positive feedback that you can highlight on your marketing pieces. So yeah, I think
Exactly.
that's great, and I think I love the way that you explained it too, because we all go into the mistake of having a bias in our forms of like,
Yeah.
what did you love most? So you can
Yeah.
hype me up a little bit. And then what
Yep.
did you not like? So that
Yep.
I can anchor myself and you give me this
Yeah.
negative feedback, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and that's a big one. And the last thing that I'll note on that is sometimes when clients cancel, I used to make this mistake in our business. Was
Yeah.
a client would cancel and you
Mm-hmm.
immediately go into why that person was the wrong fit for your business, right? They
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the right money mindset. They didn't have
Right.
this. They didn't have
Yep.
that. When in reality, that's just yourself protecting you
Yeah.
from the truth that's behind it. So
Mm-hmm.
being able to get past that,
Mm-hmm.
simply, as you said, the way that you described, it's a superpower. It's a
Yeah.
superpower
It
that
is.
you'll
It
never regret
is.
having.
You just nailed it. Just absolutely so important. And the more you do it, the less it will sting. The more you avoid
Yeah.
it, the more you're going to have a leaky bucket. The more you're going to
Yeah.
have a business that isn't quite optimal, that isn't, we all have been there. I had the end of last year, I worked with a company for 6 months. It seemed to be going well. They said they wanted to renew for another 6 months. And then one day our weekly call was canceled, and then the following week it was canceled, and I was like, this is unusual. This is the pattern. It just wasn't like what had happened the whole 6 months. And so I finally get an email and they're like, we're selling the business and moving to a different state. I just was
Mhm.
like, whoa, like what just happened?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was just a 180. Now I could have just said, okay, wishing you well, moving on. But I was like, I was like, I needed to know what happened. Like, please tell me if there was anything I did. And I will tell you, I sent that survey out again and again and again, and I never got the feedback. I kept trying. I never got them to fill it out. And funny enough, I reached out to a networking partnership of mine. She does my SEO, and she also was doing. I had referred this business to her, and she was doing theirs, and she had no idea. She was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I said, well, if you hear anything, please, like, I want to know. Like, I am not afraid. If I've done something wrong, I want to either fix it or I just want to learn from it. And I think that is one of the best skills you can really embrace as a CEO, is the ability to constantly be curious about how you can improve. And don't take it so personally, like that you as a person, that they're attacking you. It's really about, at the end of the day, you have a service or a product that needs to get a result, or that needs to provide a solution. Yeah. And if that person doesn't see the value or doesn't get the solution they want, you have to know what went wrong. So either A, you can determine, okay, this can't ever happen again, or B, this isn't the way it actually went. And because sometimes, I hate to say it, sometimes the customer's wrong. Sometimes they're not right. Sometimes you've given all you can in terms of product or service, and they just didn't get the solution, and it has nothing to do with you. But either way, you have to know what's happening in your company. You have to know what's happening at the transactional and relational level with the people who you serve, so that you can continue to innovate and stay relevant and ensure a really, really great customer experience. So, and that is the key to really, one of the best things that you can hear as a business owner when you get clients that come to a consult, like I do consults, or, sometimes, people on my team, but, when you get people saying, oh, I saw your post and it was like you were in my head. Good. That's what you want. That's what you want. You want your long form and short form content doing the heavy lifting for you. I don't know if you recently saw Google came out with that 7-11-4 rule that they adopted from, like, it's like an older rule, but they've adopted it to how it relates to content creation. Did you see that by any chance recently? It was like, I forget when it came out. I think it was in Vogue Business. But so basically, people are now consuming your content for 7 hours across, there needs to be 11 touch points across 4 channels or 4 locations. It could be websites, social media, YouTube, podcasting, all those kind of things. And then they're deciding if they want to consult with you or hire you. Yeah. And so it's now, and I feel the worst for small business owners who just already have so much on their plate. But it's the new norm. It's really making sure that you are of value to them, and building that trust and rapport and connection, because it condenses the sales cycle. It basically attracts the right people for your offers and repels the wrong people. And it honestly helps you as a business owner ensure that you are staying top of mind for the people that you are meant to serve. Because you're not meant for everybody. So these are just key things that I think, as the market. I mean, I've been doing this for over 6 years. I will say that the end of 2022 was when I really started to see some crazy stuff. Like, it just felt like things were going in a direction I had never seen, and then into 2023, and it continued into 2024. I mean, it's just, things are, the marketing world and just the buying cycle, it's just rapidly changed, and I think that small business owners really need to sort of level up is the wrong phrase. They need to adapt to the new norm, right? They need to adapt to the new norm. So these are all things that, as you listen to them, it's really not that complicated. It's about getting back to the basics, keeping people before profits at the forefront of everything you do. When you keep people at the forefront of what you do, the profits automatically come every time.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I love
100%.
That so much.
And I can say that from not just my own business, but from looking at my clients' businesses, and the clients who have a strong product market fit, who truly get people results. They are crushing it. They are growing without a problem, even in a down economy, because they're keeping the people at the forefront. Yep.
Yeah. I love that so much.
Thanks.
And, some of the last question, but I think it kind of encompasses with your tagline of calm the chaos that I mentioned earlier on in your intro. But to elaborate on that, something that you had spoken about throughout your content is how there was a time when you were personally struggling with scalability because of the loss of personalization in your business, which is something that, by the way, everybody, including myself, deals with. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to almost just like check in with you now and see like
Yeah.
how that transpired and how you think of scaling, right? Where let's say in your kind of business or even mine, which is a service-based business, right? When you're working with X number of clients, you have the ability to touch all of them. You can communicate, you can check in, you can have those love and feel points, etc. But as you get bigger, you have more team members who, of course, you want to have the same core values in the business that you hold, but you lose that personal touch and personalization. How did you overcome that? And like, how do you train your clients on that?
That is such a good question. We as business owners, as founders, the ego creeps in again. And we think there is nobody who can do it as good as us. There is nobody that's going to be as good as us. And I'm here to squash that thought because believe it or not, people can do it just as good as you if you train them properly. And, it's the only way that I've been able to scale, continue to scale. It's the way that I teach my clients, the ones that are at a more advanced level, because I do work with new business owners too. But the ones that are at a more advanced level, I do teach them the 4 systems of a self-led sustainable business and how to delegate and how to really remove themselves over time. I'm not going to promise something overnight. Over time, how to start to remove yourself. It's not one thing. It's about building the right team. It's about building the right culture, and it's about communication. And it can be done, but there's several things that have to be in place to ensure that it's successful. So it's what I'm doing presently in my company in order to do this. Every single thing I do in my business, once I do it once that way, it becomes a system. And then I teach my team members that everything in this business is either a routine or a project. Routines get done first. So every week, whatever the routines are, those get done first. And then with whatever time is left over, you assign time periods for projects with a deadline that's like further in the future. Now, depending upon their role in the company, some might be behind the scenes, some might be forward facing. You need to have SOPs for everything. You need to have one of my favorite books to refer business owners to, it's an older one, but it still rings true, is called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. And in it, he teaches you that the key to growing a very like a thriving business is to help people be a part of it, to basically consider your business a game worth playing and creating that fun drive. Like, think about if you've ever been on a sports team, right? If you've played baseball or basketball or, whatever, soccer, it's like collectively, you all have your own individual purpose, but collectively you win games. Collectively, you win championships. And you have that drive, that collective drive. And with good coaching, which in this analogy, like the coach would be like a CEO business owner, it's our job to both inspire, but then to also hold people accountable, to strive for that common goal. And so, to go back to your question, like the personalization doesn't have to go away, but you have to have a system for how you will begin over time to pass those things over. And then additionally, you have to kind of put your ego aside and stop thinking that your business can only be because of you, because it's simply not true. We know this because McDonald's went on to be this massive franchise. We've seen tons and tons of business owners that have built a business with their sort of their face as the head. And then slowly over time, they have built it to be more of the product or service as the forefront of, because really at the end of the day, people are not buying you per se, they're buying a solution. As so long as you have a way to deliver on that promise, it's not really going to come down to a make or break if you're not the face doing the delivery. And certainly there's so many ways to keep personalization involved depending upon the product or service, and depending upon the business model. So that doesn't need to be a worry so long as you have the right systems in place.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. That's such a good thing. And the way that I see the way that you just explained it is very much there are systems and tools and resources that you need to be able to create a duplicatable business, right? You teach them on them, and there's lots of great resources, including the E-Myth, which is a great book. Definitely recommend that as well.
Yeah.
But what you said, the way that I first saw what you said is like, okay, you have the tools and resources here, but
Mm-hmm.
you also have this thing above it, which is founder, owner, etc.,
Yeah.
thinking that they're the only person that can fulfill on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you can break through that wall to get here, none of this stuff actually matters unless you can break through that. And
Mm-hmm.
it oftentimes just comes from, for me, what works is talking to people like you and hearing it over and over again and
Mm-hmm.
changing my mental psyche that even us, I'll say it for myself, and maybe I fall into that thing of like, oh my gosh, it's something that I just have to do. But
Yeah.
as owners, one of the traps that have found myself in before has been things like where I believe that I'm the only person who can do it. Therefore, I do not delegate it.
Mm-hmm.
But because I have such a busy plate and I'm doing a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things,
Yeah.
I don't complete it timely. But by
Mm-hmm.
the time I do delegate it, now that person who I'm delegating it to is rushed and I'm up against a timeline. So it doesn't feel smooth. And then I go into the cycle of, oh, I should have just done it myself. Whereas when you're given a thing that you should delegate, just do it right on the spot and don't
Yeah.
carry it days until the deadline's there and then you ask for help. And then
Yep.
you reinforce that decision that people can't help you because you gave them no time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
that's been a cycle for me that is just, when you can get over that, like like game on, baby. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? When you
Yeah.
can break through that.
Yeah, and I think knowing what tools, like I tell my CEOs to use the Eisenhower matrix. I think it's like a game changer. So
Mm,
the do, dismiss, delegate. It's the four quadrants that help you figure out: is this urgent and important? Is this important but not urgent? Is it not not, or is it urgent but not important? All the four
mhm,
quadrants of the Eisenhower matrix. That combined with like habit stacking and time. I mean, it's not, like, I hate to say it, I know we all want that quick win or that quick fix, but the best things in business and in life come from tiny little habits that build
yeah,
up and compound over time.
yeah,
And really, like you said at the beginning of the conversation, having maybe somebody come in and from an outsider perspective, very respectfully telling you where you need to tweak. One
yeah.
of the first things I do with a lot of my one-to-one clients is we do a time audit. I make them
Mm,
track every minute in their business for 7 days, so that we can really get into the granularly, like, what are you doing? And is it your zone of
mm,
genius, or is this something you should delegate, or is this something you need to dismiss for now? And you need to not give it your attention. And I don't think there's one thing that leads to that building that muscle of like do, delegate, or dismiss. It's kind of like a couple things built over time. But to your point,
mm,
it's extremely important as CEOs that we really zoom in on our zone of genius. And you also touched on something that's really important: not expecting our team members to just be in our heads and to know
mm,
exactly it is our job. If they're not performing the way we want them to, it's on us. 9 times out of
yeah,
10, it's not them. It's a lack of training or a lack of clear communication. And that's another
mm,
thing. Like, the ego wants to be like, why don't they get it? Or why aren't they getting it fast enough? Most of the time it's because the manager or the CEO has not delegated properly. They've not been trained
mm.
properly, and the expectations are just not clear. So we can't expect people to deliver on what we need them to do if we're not setting them up for success first. And that's a hard scale to get built up as well.
No, that was the way you just described that was so perfect. And again, like you said, it all comes down to the 30,000-foot view. And
Yeah.
it happened to me recently in our business where I was talking to one of my business partners about how, and I said something like just thinks, because I'm like the only person in the business who can do that. And I said it so like exact, like it's how I felt about it. And they just started laughing at me. They're like, and they were respectful, but they were kind of just said like, you kind of suck at that, to be honest with you. Like, and they
Oh
were
man.
kidding, right? It was all
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
all in good it was all in good play, but it was one of those
Yeah.
like you got to be checked for a moment, right? Because you're not the only one. And
Oh,
that was just so eye opening for me. So
yeah.
Kim, this has been a great conversation. I think we're definitely going to need a part 2 of this for sure,
Okay.
because there's so much more that I can go into. But I want to make sure that we leave our listeners with where they can find you, resources. If they want to contact you. So some of your, I think you mentioned LinkedIn is your spot. We'd love to share that with them now.
Yeah. So LinkedIn is my primary platform for sure. You will see me there all of the time. I am always giving out information, going live. I have resources in my profile. My website is kimbreilandcoaching.com. I also am very excited to say I just hired a new intern who is going to be massively building my Instagram profile. I'm very excited about that. And you can find me at, just about everywhere. But my big thing is absolutely to give as much away as free. So if you do follow me because you've heard our my interview with David, please reach out and send me a DM when you connect with me. I have free resources. I also would love to know, just so that I can give David some feedback on the reach with his programming. But I absolutely love to serve. I serve. I don't sell. I've never had to, because I give out the information. I optimize my profile. People know I'm an open book. And so people know, like, this is what I need, or this is what I don't. And so I believe in value, not virality. So I serve and I somehow attract the right people. And so, yes, please connect with me, reach out to me in the DMs. I would love to give you some resources to kick you off based on anything you heard here today.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Kim. I'll have all of that stuff linked below. And go check her out. She has some amazing stuff, as you can tell from our conversation here. Just some snippets of like a much more wide range of resources. And I really appreciate your time taking the time to join us today and chat.
Thank you so much for having me. I so enjoyed this.